Welcome back to Raised by Spoilers. What is up, everybody? Ladies, gentlemen, and other popular pronouns. Tonight's episode, we get dirty. We get motor oil under our fingernails, the grit and the smell of burnt rubber, asphalt, and tar. The Messiah of the machine as we grit into this post-apocalyptic nightmare where there is nothing but Marmaid and Outback Steakhouses. We worship the blooming onion as our God in this post-apocalyptic future. Ladies and gentlemen, and other popular pronouns, witness me as the 2-for-1 can dine at the Outback Steakhouse. The surf and turf is fresh and the motor oil is free. Ladies and gentlemen, we are doing Mad Max, 1979's Australian breakout grindhouse film.
Yes.
Adam.
No. I am.
Uh-oh.
I am Knight Rider.
He is the Knight Rider. He is Knight Rider. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about George Miller's classic, a man you've probably never heard of, except if you've seen Babe and Babe Pig in the City.
Which is just
Or
wild.
the Academy Award-winning film, Happy Feet. Adam, I want to hit you with some facts real quick. We don't have Amanda tonight. We don't have the feminist warlord, the goth mommy.
We do not.
We have Plebeian Adam, and I'm your host, Geek Movie House. I want to throw some big numbers at you right now. Okay?
All right.
So,
I'm ready to catch.
you ready?
Ready to catch the numbers.
All right. We had the NFL draft in our city.
We did.
It was around our city. It was around. Okay.
It was nearby, close proximity.
American Coney, not included, just Lafayette Coney dog,
Yeah.
served 10,000 Coney dogs in 3 days.
Good for them. They're great hot dogs.
No. Wrap your head around that many dogs and how much work that is.
Yeah.
10,000 hot dogs. Buddy's Pizza served 18,000 slices of pie.
Wow.
In 3 days.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Fucking wild as we talk about dystopian movies. Just some fun fucking facts there. It's bananas. How are you? I feel like you and I haven't actually done a show before.
What's a show?
Just this in general.
Is this what we're doing? Is this a show?
I think this is just us kind of bantering for the first couple minutes of
It is.
filibuster.
We are filibustering. We haven't talked in a while, except for very recently.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
My wife is away with your soon-to-be wife, or
Yes.
I should say legal property, on a bachelorette party, which is quite fun.
They are.
We are recording late. We're so sorry. Happy May the 4th, Cinco de Mayo, and Liberation Freedom Vote Day for some of you. What am I referencing? You have no idea. Neither
Not
do
a
I,
clue.
But something might have happened in the future. So if you are now living in the dystopian future listening backwards to our episodes, completely out of order, congratulations. We're sorry you're eating everything out of a paper bag.
But I hear the roaches are pretty
The
tasty.
roaches are delicious.
Yeah.
Adam. George Miller first directed this movie in 1979. This is not his first feature film, but this is the one he is arguably most known for.
I don't think this is the movie that he's most known for.
No, but I mean the franchise. At
The
least we'll
franchises.
deal with it. We did Mad Max with a budget of... wait a minute. Okay, so this isn't going to make sense. I'm so sorry. We're going to throw some numbers at you right now. You
All
ready? 350,000 to 400,000 Australian money.
Okay, what is an Australian money?
We're going to have to... I don't know about inflation.
What is an Australian... Watch as we do
Watch as we do
live
some quick math, but not to lie to you. Can we get some... This is why we miss Amanda, because Amanda would have had
This
the
is her
facts up.
job.
This is her job, the facts and the trivia host. But I will ultimately say Australian money is ridiculous.
Okay, so how much was
inflation.
it? We'll say 350.
350 is the low.
350 Aussie dollars. 3, 2, 3. That is $231,000 US.
Okay. Now you need to backtrack that to 1970.
Yeah, well, that I'm not going to do.
Okay. So it was a lot of money, but also not a lot of money.
No.
Let's middle ground it.
Yeah,
Right.
It's
Especially
definitely
for
more
the
than an
70s.
Evil Dead, for sure.
Oh, 100% more than
Yeah.
an Evil Dead. 100% more than an Evil
For
Dead.
being kind of in the same wheelhouse, we'll say, right? They're both indie, where they had to scrounge the money from everywhere.
100%.
This one, it definitely comes through the fact that George Miller did have a job, unlike Sam Raimi.
Yes, true. Very true. Tonight's episode is Mad Max. The plot summary so far is a dystopian near future Australia is facing a breakdown of society order, primarily due to widespread oil shortages and ecocide. The berserker motorbike gang member Crowfoot and the Night Rider kill a rookie officer, and the revenge mission begins.
Yes.
So, Adam, what did you think? This is your first viewing of Mad Max. This is both our first viewing of Mad Max.
This is
what
kind
do
of
you know about Max?
Okay, so I do have to give a small amount of history. I think it's important to me. This is the first movie, I think the only movie,
Okay.
my dad ever had a DVD copy of.
This one, not Road Warrior. This one.
Well, no, he had both.
So this strikes me as, because I think my brother has the same thing. He has the classic bargain bin.
Yeah.
All three movies on one disc.
Yes, that is
and
exactly
I miss those days.
Yeah.
I miss those fucking
It was
days.
so nice.
Because you could get whatever you could get.
You knew when a trilogy was done.
You knew when a trilogy was done, and you didn't know what you were going to pick up. And usually 2 of those movies on that disc were good, and the third one was okay, and the fourth one was shit.
Yeah.
So go for it. Tell me more about Mad Max and your history.
So my dad introduced me to 2 movies in my entire life. One of them was Star Wars, which he illegally filmed off of, I don't know, TV somehow. It was on like TNS or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And then there was this where he had a DVD copy of it.
Okay.
And I've only ever watched Thunderdome from that.
I have never seen any of these.
Really?
I have not seen, the only one I've seen is Fury Road.
Fury Road. That makes sense. It's the best one. No offense.
It's the newest, or it was the newest one at the time we're recording.
Still the best one. But it had this like almost awe-inspiring, like, this is your father's movie.
Right.
This is the movie that my dad watched. And, I've gone biking with him now.
Sure.
We both had motorcycles for a while. So like I can see my dad in this.
Okay.
And I can
Leather
see my
jacket. He's in his gear.
I could see my dad trying when he was younger, trying to be like this guy, wanting to be like, minus the dead family.
That's an argument for another day. I'm going to ask your dad privately another time.
But this
Mel
movie-
Gibson stars.
Yes, but this movie sat at a level for me where it was I'm a small kid holding my dad's hand with this movie,
Right.
and that's kind of how I feel when I watch this
Okay.
movie. Doesn't make it good though.
That's fine. So I think with Raised by Spoilers in general, the initial question is, did you like the movie?
No,
Like going in?
I thought I'd like it more going in,
Okay.
because again, I'd seen Thunderdome, I've seen Fury Road. I was expecting. To be fair, I did some research on this one.
Sure.
So I
We
knew-
both did. We both haven't seen it. We have to put a show together. So yeah.
Exactly. So I kind of knew a little bit more of what I was going into, but I was hoping it wouldn't be as bad as people said. People talked about the audio mix being really bad. People talked about the pacing being really weird. They are all 120% correct.
Okay.
I think those 2 things break this movie.
Okay. So I didn't do that much research for it. I did watch a couple things. I know there's a documentary, Max is Mad on YouTube. That's worth a watch.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Like 2 hours long, and it is a retrospective, a couple years ago, maybe 10 at this point, realistically, time's a flat circle. But they had gone in and done a documentary interviewing everybody in Australia that worked on it, the bike gang and the people who were actually on set, and they actually got Miller and stuff. And and they've done it's 2 hours. It's worth the watch.
Is it? Okay.
If you like this, the making of is very much just like, here's how we did it, or not how we did it, but
It's
how
a
we
bunch
got
of Aussies swearing at it and telling
how we got
telling
away with
stories.
it. Yeah, how we got away with some of the
How
shit.
they did their like guerrilla warfare street filming.
Well, that, and then a lot of the answers from the crew and the stuntmen were like, we didn't really know what we were doing.
Yeah.
And we got away with it. Thank God, kind of thing. And no one really, really got hurt.
Weirdly enough, the only person who got hurt off camera.
Yeah.
As in the only guy, I mean, I'm sure they all got hurt, but the only guy who really got hurt was the stunt guy. And it wasn't during a stunt.
Yeah.
It was traveling to the film set.
Beauty. I don't know the name or the gentleman for that one to pull up.
Bold.
It was Bold?
No, I don't know his name.
It was Bold. You just said it was Bold. What was Bold?
No, I'm saying the movie was bold.
The movie was
the fact that they were willing to film these things so weirdly, and like a great example is there's this one. It's actually near the end where the bikes crash and the dude gets smoked in the head by a tire of a bike still in motion.
Yeah.
That was legit. He got smoked by that bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just got up
a lot
and
of
walked
the stunts
away.
weren't stunts. They were just like people getting hurt.
Yeah. But like the fact that everyone made it out is amazing.
I mean, documented injuries, I think, is realistically where we're landing on. Like, no one actually went to the hospital for this one.
That's a
but
good
they
point.
Definitely could have. Definitely there was concussions.
You
for
know
this
what?
one.
I hadn't considered that. I hadn't considered that. You're right. It is not that nobody got injured. It's just that nobody reported it.
Nobody reported it.
That's
I
a
feel
really
like
good
very much this one, for the history of Mad Max and the walkthrough of George Miller's insanity, a lot of the streets were just kind of traffic coned closed. They weren't actually approved. Stunts were overseen but not necessarily followed through with safety precautions. A lot of the cast, crew, and stuntmen were not cast, crew, or stuntmen.
Yeah.
They were paid volunteers with beer.
Yep.
And whatever petty cash and pizza they could afford. This is very much a Evil Dead grassroots movie for this first film.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like everyone's got this image in their head, and obviously Fury Road being as popular as it was, and Furiosa with Anna Taylor-Joy coming out relatively soon, looks spectacular and CGI'd to shit.
Yeah.
And an action's like packed adrenaline ride. And they're a lot of fun, but ultimately this one, I don't know, man. I didn't hate it, but also I didn't necessarily feel like it was post-apocalyptic.
So they were never, I guess we'll get into some stuff. So
Yeah,
George
let's break it
Miller
down.
never intended this originally to be post-apocalyptic.
Okay.
It was never supposed to be that. What happened is they needed a reasonable story excuse, we'll call it,
Sure.
for them having cheap locations to film in,
Yeah.
because the locations were derelict, and they needed a reason for their cars to be in shitty shape because they bought cheap cars. Therefore, they just said sometime in the near future, move on with our lives.
I think it's technically 1997.
Yeah, they might have
That's the year.
specified it now.
That's the year in the future they're at.
That's possible. They just said sometime in the future.
Yeah.
So that was all that was. The whole post-apocalyptic came from just a shit. How do we explain the fact that everything we bought was cheap?
Right.
That's it. That's all it was.
Right.
So it was never intended to be post-apocalyptic. It wasn't until
The second
this
one.
went really well, and then they went, oh, now we have the budget. We can really go post-apocalyptic.
Right,
We're going to live in that world. And that's where the second one came in. And that obviously really set the tone.
Well, it's just funny because you get scenes where people are like going up for breakfast and shit. And they're like, oh, we're going to go on the beach.
Yeah. There's
And it's-
lawyers in a
Well, I mean,
post-apocalyptic
I think
world.
the lawyers are the last ones to go, right?
I figure they're the first ones to
You'd
go.
say that, but I feel like they would be the ones to be the last ones to go in a gross lawyer joke. So
I do like the fact that they're to show off that post-apocalyptic world, the police station, the Hall of Justice.
Hall of Justice, yes.
Was basically just a derelict building, just with shit strewn about.
I think it was an abandoned shoe factory,
Is that what it was?
I believe.
That makes sense. But like considering that's your police, that's your well-funded people. Like those offices look shittier than Max's house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's locations and stuff too that they're filming in.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know how hot I am on this movie.
Okay.
I feel like I'm divided in three separate camps.
Interesting.
Part of me understands where we're going. Road Warrior, Thunderdome,
Yep.
Furiosa, etc. Right? Even the video games. There is a reason why Mad Max is important in a way.
Oh yeah.
Mad Max being what it is with the violence of show or tell don't show for a lot of senses.
Except for the sex scene at the beginning.
I mean, you didn't even see a tit.
Oh, I saw a tit.
I didn't. Well, I might have my eyes closed. It was nudity. So there's sort of this really like ushers in the underground bootleg scene.
Oh yeah.
Of VHSs. Mad Max not necessarily having a widespread release. Even you and I talked about it in the beginning when it was redubbed for American.
Yes.
In American, not common, American.
American.
Because people couldn't understand the slang of the Australian accent.
There's also...
Which I didn't have a problem with watching.
No, I don't. But we are also living in a world with the internet where we watch YouTube videos.
Cultured.
We're cultured people.
Cultured people.
But we live in a world where there is a lot more connectivity to...
True.
We watch... Like, how many English TV shows do we watch now versus what we used to watch? How many Japanese shows are watched now that used to...
Midnight Ramen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that makes sense. I personally think the only benefit of the subtitles, the dubbing, would have been the fact that their mix was so bad.
I feel like you need to do ADR for all of that because nobody was mic'd up.
Yeah.
It was all boomstick, and it is people yelling in a factory.
Yeah.
Or yelling on the highway.
Yeah.
And stuff is still, like, the wind is bad that day, or the car is still running and it over.
And they only, when they record it and film it, they only had one track. Right. So now when you make a movie, you can have multiple tracks, so you can adjust the audio per track. They couldn't do that. So apparently they were struggling with the mix, which makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And I feel like in a hindsight artist perspective, Miller will turn around and say, no, that's how I meant to have it. I feel like the only takeaway from that, where it is totally acceptable within the flushing out of all of that wave of sound, is when they first fire up the interceptor.
Oh, yeah.
That's fully loaded, and Max is just staring at the car. And they don't necessarily do the quick cut shot of Max, the car, Max, the car.
Yeah.
But you hear his coworkers yelling at him. And they're yelling over the car.
Yes.
Because it's drowning out all of the sound, and that was stylistically the choice. Where you're like, it's revving, and it's hypnotic, and he is pulled into that engine and the madness of it. Mm-hmm. As far as Mad Max goes, for me being like split three ways here, it wasn't crazy enough.
Oh, for sure.
It wasn't crazy enough. It reminded me a lot of a motorcycle gang modeled after Charles Manson and the Tate murders and everything that happened.
Yeah.
And then there is just sort of this like unstoppable hippie movement. And that's what it's kind of like. These dirty hippies are riding across town on motorcycles.
Yep.
This laid back, relaxed sort of anti-government vibe of Australia in the 70s. Mm-hmm. Lack of gun control, because I know they hadn't had their mass shooting and their lockdowns and everything yet. And then just sort of the craziness of it and the overt homosexuality within this film is so trying to be edgy and like hot and sexy in a way, but also not knowing what to do with it. I mean, you're going to laugh, but I mean, like, all of the cops are in skin tight leather fucking pants, and they're waiting every opportunity to get these guys shirtless. Like, it is very gay. Yes. It is very gay. Like, the guy's got it. Like, him watering, and I mean, granted, water plants, stay hydrated, everybody. This isn't me pointing a finger, but the bald police commissioner with the mustache, the ascot that goes,
Freddie Mercury,
the ascot that he's got wrapped around his neck with the gold chains and the biker rings, and shirtless in his tight leather pants, and he's smoking a cigar, being like, Max, you're a twink, and he keeps grabbing him by the face every time he talks to him and smacking him with leather gloves. It's a very leather daddy, very sort of gay police force, and it's okay, but it's just like, wow.
Well, they had to compare that to the bikers, because even the bikers were they're
ruffians.
They're ruffian, but they had like a lot of like kissing each other, licking each other's face.
Right. There's almost like this Lost Boys sort of aesthetic to it, but we don't get enough. Mm-hmm. And I get the whole thing with Miller being like, hey, let me make a movie. Yeah. And then let me make a movie. And Mad Max very much feels like, let me show you that I can make a movie. Let me show you that I can make money off a movie.
Yeah.
And then by Road Warrior, which I can't wait to do with you, is very much more let me actually tell the story I've been meaning to tell, but I haven't been able to accomplish with the budget that I was able to work with. And that's also the difference between Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2, because the practical gore and effects are fucking through the roof in Evil Dead 2.
Are they?
Not as much as Army of Darkness, but you see what he is building to. It's just how much money can I throw at the wall for fake blood and gas? But
number 2 had more like comedy, and it was more of a joke than number 1. Yes. And whereas this one almost, it just basically took it. The thing is I can tell that because George Miller didn't originally see this as a post-apocalyptic movie,
they go for ice cream, for fuck's sake.
They go for ice cream, yeah.
For ice cream in the oblivion.
Yeah, and they're describing like a pretty brutal act, like a reasonably bad thing, and the guy's like, I don't think I can eat anymore, and you're like, that's not post-apocalyptic, motherfucker.
So the brutal descriptions were originally, they were interviewing paramedics, and George Miller himself was a surgeon.
Yeah.
So him working on motorcycle accidents and burn victims and seeing the horror of everyday medical procedures was enough for him to say, hey, I think there's a story to tell here.
That's where he got it.
Just the rubber meets the road.
Well, he basically combined
the flesh and bone.
Yeah, he basically combined his experiences with that, with the fuel, with like the economy crash and fuel shortage that they had.
Yeah.
And he went, oh, well, this is the movie we're having. But the fact that he didn't really think of it as a post-apocalyptic world and then turned it into a post-apocalyptic world in later movies, honestly, I'm going to have to say that I don't think he's I think he became a good movie maker later. But I think when he was making this, it really showed how new he was to it. And particularly how new he was to the writing and character development and beats of a story. Obviously, he's got action. Obviously, he's got cinematography. And I think that's pretty much all he's got. He's kind of like a Zack Snyder, where he's very focused on one aspect.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he had done 2 short films beforehand. There is St. Vincent's Review, which was he written and directed. And then there's Violence in the Cinema. And then in 1974, there is The Devil in a Dress.
Yeah.
And that's it. Those are short, very, very minimal films. I can't even find them.
Oh, I know.
They're lost to time in a way. He also worked on later Nightmare at 2000 Fleet, which is the classic Twilight Zone with Shatner episode. He didn't work on that one. He did it for the movie. It was a segment for the anthology movie for the Twilight Zone movie in the 80s.
Oh, interesting.
The one with the helicopter incident.
I don't remember that one. I don't really actually. I don't think I've watched most of the Twilight Zone.
Okay. So Steven Spielberg produced with John Landis, and John Landis.
I know John Landis is.
John Landis filmed American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
He also filmed the Twilight Zone movie.
Yes.
Where the helicopter killed the kids.
Oh, so this was the movie, not the TV show.
Not the TV show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have seen the movie.
And then George Miller, because everybody had seen Mad Max, went, "That's your fucking guy."
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. But that's what I mean is I can clearly see that he had a lot of. This isn't one of those guys that came out of nowhere. Okay, he came out of nowhere.
He came out of nowhere and made a fucking name for himself.
Yeah, I don't think he was some messiah. I think he's clearly showing a lot of inexperience with this movie.
Sure.
But I think it is an amazing third movie. Obviously, I'm sure he has a lot more like college movies that he did and stuff like that. But I don't know. I
think that with this is what we get for. This kicks off Grindhouse. This kicks off Death Proof. This kicks off a lot of that 80s sort of gore horror that follows through with that Underground.
I feel like those came out before.
They didn't.
No?
No.
Okay. Oh, maybe that's what I'm not giving this guy credit for is the starting of that, because I look at this and go, you made a Death Proof, you made a Grindhouse that, okay, other people have done. You just did it. He's kind of in my mind. Oh my God. Oh wow. J.R.R. Tolkien.
Okay.
Whereas this movie created a world that I want to investigate.
Right.
His characters and the story suck, but the world is very interesting.
Okay.
I think that's what he did well. That and the action shots, but that's mostly just because they're just straight up action shots. He's not using techniques, careful techniques to get interesting shots. He's just going, all right, and the bike rolls you over. Film.
True. So, I think pulling it off, though, is more impressive because, like we said, nobody really, really got hurt recorded-wise. Like, it still takes... I mean, like, I know Evel Knievel was doing it for years, but it's still, you have to plot out a stunt.
Oh, yeah.
And you still have to put the work in for that kind of thing.
He gave up a lot. So, you know that blue van at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah.
That was his van.
Okay.
He basically took out the
ending segment of the movie that feels, or the beginning segment of the movie that feels like an end segment of the movie because of how much carnage and police chasing.
They really wanted to grab you right at the beginning of this movie.
They definitely fucking did.
Where they start with the chase of the Night Rider. Night Rider! And that was, I think, was the best part of this movie by a large mile. The opening, yeah. And when he was chasing it, they hit that blue van. They had to take out all the weight of that van to get it to spin right.
Okay.
But that was his van he gave up for the movie. And then, I don't know if you remember, but right during that same scene when the Knight Rider had to like come around the trailer and then he crashed, the truck with the pylons and shit, they put a rocket on the back of that fucking car.
They borrowed that rocket from the government.
Yeah.
Who just gave it to him.
Yeah. Borrowed. They never gave that rocket back.
Bonkers.
Wild that they like, this car's not going fast enough for this crash. Strap a rocket to it. And they don't, it's not even like they strapped a rocket to it and showed off the rocket as a part of like, hey, the Knight Rider has a rocket. They just really wanted an epic crash. And they went, shove a rocket on it. But that to me is what this movie is it's not, he didn't pre-plan a lot of the stuff. He showed up and just sort of figured it out as he went, which to me doesn't make him a good filmmaker. It makes him lucky. The accidents, the fact that no one got hurt on a lot of this, lucky. The fact that he somehow accidentally created a post-apocalyptic world in order to explain cheapness, lucky. The fact that he landed Mel Gibson, who, great actor, he did a great job, lucky. I don't view this as this guy is a genius. I view it as something luckily, survivor bias. He got lucky throughout this entire movie that it somehow worked out. That's my take. Pretty negative take, I know. I'm sorry.
The film initially received a polarizing reception upon its release in April 1979, although it won 4 AACTA awards, filmed on a budget of 400,000 Australian dollars. It earned more than 100 million worldwide at the gross revenue, setting a Guinness World Record for most profitable film. The success of Mad Max has been credited to the further opening of the global market to Australian new wave films within the time period.
Yeah. So I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
I'm wrong.
You are 1,000% wrong.
I'm the weird guy.
You are going, it's a bad movie and everyone likes it, but it's a bad movie. And they're going, This was the rock in the pond that said you could film stuff in other places than the United States.
Yes, for sure.
100 bazillion%. If they were bad, they wouldn't be still making them.
Maybe the problem is that I'm looking at this movie backwards. After watching Fury Road and Thunderdome.
Adam, welcome to Raised by Spoilers, where we started on, hey, they were 16 and had $100 in their pocket and had no idea what they were doing. And then you sit down and go, it's like they have no idea what they're doing. And it's like, yes, and that's why we're still getting Evil Dead movies to this day.
That's true.
This is why we're still getting Friday the 13th movies to this day. Toxic Avenger and all of this bullshit.
But it doesn't make
this is the cult era.
It doesn't make those movies good.
It doesn't. And the amount of money that they make aren't that it's good, but it's the dream and the inspiration that you and your buddies and $200 and a half a tank of gasoline could make a movie.
That's true. That is true.
It's the you don't have to have a billionaire Jewish uncle who's going to finance your movie and just push it through. It's the you and a fucking phone camera can still do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the importance of the first Mad Max movie.
That's fair.
Mel Gibson, fresh out of acting school. I think this is his first gig.
I think he's younger than us in this movie.
I guarantee Mel is younger than us in this gig. I want to figure out. I think this is his first go.
I think it is.
Breakthrough lead as the leather-clad post-apocalyptic survivor. This is his first go. So there would be no Mel Gibson in whatever unless he showed up in this and became sort of a household name. This was that movie that was violent for violence sake, even though they didn't really show much.
No.
Like, the most upsetting thing is the rape, but you don't even get that. You just get the insinuation with, oh, his ass, you said it. They didn't comment on it. The guy's ass cheeks are bloody.
They just like painted his, they just like spray painted his ass with
but
red.
The girl in the wreckage, and the wreckage is much worse, but she's still laying there screaming. And that's where you're kind of like, physically, the wreckage of the car is brutal, and it looks like it got chewed out. Emotionally and psychologically, she is laying in the interior of the back seat of the upholstery.
Yeah.
She's laying in the upholstery of the back seat of this car, screaming with a dog chain wrapped around her.
They did do a really good job.
Visually, with what they had for the budget, upsetting.
Yeah, that's true.
When you really, really take the problem I think that we're both having, and this is where we're coming out of this from the future's past, is going, we know these movies get crazy.
Yeah.
But where we are right now, this is upsetting, and this would be fucked up for people, right?
True.
You got to think, I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left, Wes Craven. You didn't really get these female antagonist gets raped, male antagonist goes on a revenge mission.
Let's say female gets raped and then male gets raped.
Right. You don't, like, those sort of movies just kind of got pushed aside, flushed out, weren't really rated about, or they were review bombed back in the newspapers because they were just completely labeled as obscene.
Yeah.
But those were the basis of, like, some of the most shock horror of the 70s and the 80s kind of thing, especially before we get into, like, actual slashers.
Yeah. But a lot of those movies, they got ragged upon because there was this wave of movies where they went, we're going to bring people into the theater with boobies and rape and all these violence and a lot of sexuality,
right,
to bring them in. And then that's when we started to get some of the movie ratings, because they started to go like, no, you guys need to calm this down.
Well, Toxic Avenger was bad for that.
Exactly. And then they started to calm things down. So there's an entire generation of people that kind of, they weren't living with that kind of a movie anymore. And then these grindhouse movies started to bring it back because they didn't care about the ratings. They were, publishing out of their house on a VHS and just giving it to people.
That, yeah. And I mean, grindhouse cinema in general was more of the after midnight stuff.
Yeah.
It was you would go to a cinema, you'd pay a price, you'd sit down, and they would play everything. Hence the B movie. The B movie is not the feature. It's past midnight, past 11.
Is that why it has that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
B movies typically were not the main feature. So all of your sci-fi stuff, you would go to see.
I guess they
the
would call
musical.
the main A and the side B. Okay.
Yeah. So your B movie would be the late night feature. Your not Rocky Horrors, but your Fay Ray and King Kongs, all of that stuff. Let alone King Kong being shown on repeat for, I think, like fucking 20 years after.
It was a big deal.
It wasn't that it was a big deal, but at one point the syndication was cheap and movie theaters could afford copies of those prints.
Oh.
So they would just keep showing it.
Huh.
They would run these projectors and change.
Because it did really well in theaters, so I just assumed they brought it. If it was started B, they moved it to A because it was making more money than the A's at the time.
King Kong was an A feature and then just phased to a B.
Oh, I see.
Right. So you have your generations. Every 5 years, you re-release a movie.
That's fair.
Or every 10 years. It's kind of like with Gremlins, how they showed Snow White. Snow White came out in the 40s, 50s.
I don't know that kind of stuff.
No, but Snow White had come out in the 50s.
I'll believe you.
And was re-shown at Christmas time in the 80s.
Oh, I
because
see
they didn't have it on VHS. It wasn't a commodity. So,
Yeah.
of course, Disney would just say, hey,
home theater wasn't a thing.
we're going to just bring you back to the theater to remaster it out
Yeah.
of the Disney Vault kind of situation.
Home theater wasn't a thing. That makes
And
sense.
that's the whole point with like the Grindhouse thing in Mad Max. Mad Max, The Thing, a lot of these off-the-wall sort of overly violent, not necessarily gory unless you're talking about The Thing, which it's all gore and less violence, leans more into going to the cinema, having to pay a set price, and then just waiting for the movie you actually want to watch to come on.
But you put that in and you look at this movie and you think it's not a whole lot of gore.
It isn't. It's
Like,
a lot of trucking her out.
They show
it's about a trucking about, right?
Yeah, they
The
show
whole
the
thing.
worst scene, which is, well, I think the worst scene was that red car and the guy with the red butt and the lady with the collar. But even what they tried to hit onto some of the worst scenes was, his wife and his son, which was just a shoe and a ball rolling.
I think they prelude to that, though, with the kid running about in the streets.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're like, well, the kid's going to get hit by a car, and your anxiety about that. I think the difference, too, is you and I being like, you get in a car, you do your seatbelt on.
Yeah.
And in the 70s, what's the matter with you? Kicked in the head? You don't put a seatbelt on. Like, nobody, there was no airbags, no safety, no nothing. It's just 1950s, like,
I have to
hot
say,
rods ripping around.
I have to say, the bikers did not put fear in me at all. They didn't seem all that bad.
Okay.
And I think mostly the reason is I'm used to riding. We're in Canada.
We are in Canada.
And so we've got a lot of highways and things like that. So the people who ride around here, they're Harleys, mostly Harleys. They're big, heavier, much louder bikes. Those bikes, they were Kawasaki, Suzuki's, Hondas, which are more like sport bikes. They're adventure bikes is what we'd call them. But it just felt weird that like toe cutter is like, I'm going to murder someone, but put on my helmet for safety before I ride. It's like,
I mean, legally they need to do that, though.
yeah, I'm like, ugh. Like, you're not, okay. I know in the States, there's, real biker gangs are riding around without their helmets and the cops pull them over for their helmets and they just shoot them. And it's like, they did not put fear in me.
I think
Because of the fame and the notoriety of American biker gangs who are they look way more badass. They look way more dangerous than these guys. These guys just look unhinged, right? They look violent in this. Yeah, you mentioned like Charles Manson. They look unhinged as in they can murder you, not because they're scary, because you just can't think like they do. You just can't understand their thought process. They're alien to us. But they're not, I don't know, I didn't feel threatened by them at all. Like, I don't know, they just didn't seem that scary to me.
so. I've got two stories real quick to bounce off of, and I've got a segment on this. I'm reading a book right now called Easy Rider and Raging Bull. And there's a segment, I cannot remember the actress's name, but she is having lunch in the 70s with her family on the patio in the back of their Hollywood home. It's in the hills. It's beautiful. And these hippies have been on the property, and they're known that these hippies are just hanging out on the property. And then one morning, these hippies just walk up to the house. They just don't say anything. No one's talking. They walk into the home. They look at all of the photos. They start playing on the piano, and then they get up and they leave. And the police are called. They come in, and the actress runs down and says, hey, they're my guests. They're probably just coming off a real bad trip. Get them, like, They get them out of here, but you don't have to lock them up and prosecute. Mm-hmm. That was the Manson family. They were just wandering around drug field.
Okay.
So the second thing that I wanted to comment on, and what with this bike gang was, especially coming off of Fallout and Silo and all of these post-apocalyptic movies, and you're saying like, hey, this wasn't post-apocalyptic until the second one, and then he kind of backdated and said, oh yeah, the worst is yet to come. This is just the fallout before it all hits the fan. Yeah. And you're slowly watching the fuse or the match burn before the actual big explosion.
Yep.
Mad Max 2 is the big explosion as everything has gone to shit. And we get the radio broadcast and we get the everything has gone to shit. Very George Romero, Dawn of the Dead,
yes,
Night of the Living Dead kind of thing. And I think that's how Road Warrior opens. It's just radio broadcast being like nukes and water and gas and like we're fucked.
Okay.
There wasn't any rad or speed or jet. These biker gangs were just biker gangs of psychopaths.
Yeah.
They were just senseless killers. Like with Mandy, when we look at another great episode by Riz by Spoilers, you see these Cenobites, demonic hell warriors, these leather-clad psychos that are just on bad meth.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, they're not monsters. They're not deities or demons. They're just dudes in fetish gear on meth.
Yes.
Killing. None of these people are doing drugs. Obviously, it's 78. You can't necessarily show that. Mm-hmm. Or it's 79, probably. It was released in 79, so it's 78-ish, 77 when they're filming shit.
Yep.
Wild to think. Star Wars came out 2 years before this. Like, the bang of... Obviously, Spielberg and Lucas were like, fucking... They're running people over with cars, and we had a hard time having a shark eat a person on film. So that's the standard of can we get this made sort of jump.
Yep.
There's no drugs. There's no excuse. You can't necessarily show that as much as they're all smoking cigarettes.
Yep.
Not joints, but cigarettes. Cigarettes. It's a wild sort of, they're operating on their own lawless and madness as this biker gang.
Sure.
The second point I want to make and jump into why they are scary, why they're not scary, and an interesting concept is the alter ego. The alter ego of Toe Cutter is when he puts on that helmet. When he takes the helmet off, he is Toe Cutter, or he is that person. They all look at him, they all talk to him, they operate in a normal society as much as they can. And when he puts on the helmet, and or a knight putting on his helmet and donning the horse or donning his metal steed, the iron stallion, the motorhead, he becomes the toe cutter. He becomes the night rider. He becomes this monster of the highway, this monster of asphalt, this unstoppable man and machine, carrying carnage from town to town, spreading rumor and myth across the Australian wasteland. Toe Cutter isn't scary. The idea of Toe Cutter is scary. The idea of this bike gang coming through your town and butchering and eating your children, or raping and your youth and burning down and taking and stripping all of your resources is either the prosperic youth of change through an old society's lens of the youth are going to just burn down the forest instead of building homes with it, versus the freedom and revolution of the time. There's a lot there of what is scary versus it being unhinged change, unlawlessness, and the ability to stop it. Because there is times and there is scenes within this movie where Toe Cutter, as unhinged and crazy as he is, he's not a joker, he's not a villain, he is a gang leader who has to look as intimidating as possible to his gang. Not the world outside. Because if he doesn't act as intimidating as possible and threatening and gaslighty, he will lose his seat as pack leader. In which case, he is only violent to the people he surrounds himself with.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Where
Welcome to Raised by Spoilers, everybody.
was deep.
Sorry.
You went real
Mad
deep on
Max.
that one. You went real deep on that one. And
Do you know what I mean, though?
See-
He's only tough because he surrounds himself with that. Because if not, he's just a dude on a motorcycle.
So yes, and this is where I think you and I kind of diverge on this movie right now, where you look at that and you see all this depth, all these complexities, all these things, and I look at that as going, that's something we've attributed to the movie. George had nothing to do with that. He was not clever enough to think of that. He didn't think of that. I can tell you right now he didn't think of it. I can't say for certain, but based on the fact that he barely knew half the story. The fact that Toe Cutter was the one who shaved his the actor, Hugh Byron, whatever. The fact that he's the one who shaved off the eyebrow and stuff like that,
Huge
right?
Key Burns, yeah.
Yeah, tells me that they're the wild ones. These biker gangs aren't the unhinged biker gangs. All they did was pay a bunch of biker guys to just go act a fool. He didn't think of this ahead of time. He's not clever enough. And that's why I'm saying he created an interesting world,
Right.
but he didn't create an interesting movie. And the problem is we can look that deeply. We can find the ocean in the spoon, as you have just demonstrated, but none of that was presented in the movie. And that's where it falls apart. That's the weakness.
Okay.
Is if you watch this movie as a movie, it doesn't have that. If you watch it with Road Warrior, if you watch it,
I mean,
Thunderdome,
it only
Fury
makes it
Road,
worse.
It does, but you can add those details
Because none of them are better. Road Warrior is the one that just gets wackier.
Oh yeah,
And then Beyond Thunderdome with Tina Turner
yeah.
is Mad Max to a point where it's like we need to make it PG.
Is that what that happened there?
Yeah.
Okay. But I know. I think the movie. I respect it.
I loved it. I thought it was fucking fun, man. It was fucking fun. Whether it's a good movie, we'll get to that. Did I have fun with it? Hell yeah.
You know what's really weird?
Hell yeah.
I think there was only two, and I can't remember the other one, but I can only remember two times when we watched these movies where I had the thought of, when is this over?
No shit.
Yeah.
I think it was Gremlins. Gremlins, you were like,
Gremlins.
you're
Maybe.
like, I'm out, man. I'm out. I'm like, I get why people like this.
Yeah, that might have been Gremlins.
You sat down and you were like, I get it. I get it. But I just fucking can't with this film. It's too oddball. It's too
oddball.
live action Looney Tunes.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I felt with this one, where I go, okay, I see where this one crawled so others could run.
Right.
I see that. I get it.
Right.
But looking backwards, I go, oh, this was just dry. Like, now that I've seen Fury Road. Fury Road was aside from being a child,
Right.
as an adult, Fury Road is the only movie I've ever gone in theaters to see with my dad.
Good for you guys.
So
I mean, you should make a habit of going to the theaters with your dad.
he doesn't watch movies. But that's what I mean. This is
Yeah,
like
but
his
get that
one
old man,
thing.
Get that old man out of the house.
Yeah, he likes to work on his wood.
I mean, fucking A, right? They got pills for that.
But my point is like, this is clearly like a big moment. And I look back on this going, oh, I'm going to connect. I wanted to look historically and connect to that. What got him? Why did he go? Why is the one movie he watched in a theater, with me as an adult,
Fuck him up.
was Fury Road?
This is the one that fucked him up.
Yeah. Why? What? Let's go back. Where did this start? And I look at this and go, wow, I'm disappointed. So I see that if you go back in the 70s when this movie was out, this was probably unique and crazy. But now, again, the same problem I had with the Alien movie. I look back, now that I've seen a better future for what this could be, I look back at this and go, oh, that was hard to get through.
I think you got to just kind of look back and be impressed with what they could get away with or what they were able to pull off. And remember that, there was a lot of Hollywood that was originally just trying to be like, how much money is this going to make us?
Mm-hmm.
And there's that sweet spot in the 70s and only the 70s when it was, but what if we just made a fucking movie? No one shows up. It's not connected to any superheroes. It's not anything. We're going to just make a movie. And if it makes our money back and a little more, we can pay off the lawyers and pay off the thing, and we're going to be okay. And then we might be able to make another one.
Sure.
80s was when there was that whole trick of, we need a budget for one movie. It's a mega movie. Okay. It's not a blockbuster. but we need $100,000 and we're going to make a movie. And then you'd turn around in the 80s and you'd make 2 movies with $50,000 and doubled your profits and then pay back your investors and not say a fucking thing. And that's where you get a lot of your studio investment in collusions, and where it's like, this movie flopped and it was terrible. And you're like, well, actually it didn't flop. And you're calling it a tax write-off, Batgirl and fucking Looney Tunes. Like, it's Hollywood politics aside, weird.
Oh, for
kind of thing. It's very weird. I don't know. I think with Mad Max and your dad, and this is me speaking like right from the hip, with not necessarily knowing the context, I feel it's the same thing with Easy Rider. Like, you saw Easy Rider back in the 70s, which is a movie about driving, I think, cocaine across the fucking state line. Like, it's a motorcycle movie.
Oh, cool.
And it was one of, okay, so another one is Mark Hamill's Corvette Summer.
See, now I was thinking Cannonball Run.
Okay, so Easy Rider, Corvette Summer is another one. Corvette Summer is about Mark Hamill, who gets a Corvette. He works all fucking summer long and he buys a Corvette, and then a car gang starts roughing him up.
Okay.
Or it's a bike gang that starts like fucking with him.
Okay.
And he goes and he runs him off the road and stuff like that. It was between Empire and Star Wars.
Huh.
Right? It was like one of the only films he really, really did.
This is why we have this podcast.
It's great.
I've never
Corvette
heard
Summer,
of any of
Corvette Summer is a fucking great movie. Easy Rider is really good. But it inspired people to buy motorcycles. It inspired people to go, fuck yeah. If you, like the Interceptor that's super fully loaded and ready to go with a black leather jacket and a chick fucking on your side and bucket seats, that's Mad Max. It's not necessarily the film and the story, it's you sitting there going, I wouldn't mind driving a motorcycle across Australia one day. Like, it's the dream of this is a new location that is not your hometown, that is, yes, it's full of not even cannibalistic weirdos, just cannibalistic weirdos everywhere. There's giant spiders. The country's always on fire.
There's animals that kick you.
There's animals that'll kick you and punch you in the face, steal your wife.
Yeah.
They're called kangaroos.
Just put her in a pouch and hop
that's
away.
It. She's gone. You'll never see her again.
Yeah.
And shrimp on a Barbie. But I think there's this sort of weird fascination with film and young men and women being like, fuck, I want to go there.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Well, they went to the Australia. I think a lot of films at this time, especially during.
That's why I think your dad loved it, though. Because it's like, Mel Gibson looks fucking cool. Okay. I want a big fucking cool loud car. I want to wear a leather fucking jacket and be real fucking loud and cool.
My dad loved it because in the 70s, earlier 70s, mid to earlier 70s, he had Mustang Fastback. He had the muscle cars. He had motorcycles. Right. He was, like, he tried to be that guy.
This was pre-Fast and Furious.
Yeah. This is what I mean by my dad. Like,
that's what I mean.
At the time, this is where wanted to be, he probably wanted to be, Mad Max, minus, again, the
we
dead
all
family.
want to be fucking Mad Max at that point, right? Or a little Dom Toretto in us.
Little Dom Toretto.
We all have a little Dom Toretto.
It's about family.
It has always been about family. Fast cars and family.
No, I don't know.
I get it. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry.
Though? No, you don't have to.
I don't want to be the one to be like, I fucking hate this shit. This is boring. I want to be done with it.
I know. We went pee like 4 times because we have child's bladders. But I mean, like, I get the adventure. I get the car movie now just being the car movie. And as bad as it is, just like James Bond being like product placements.
Sure.
I subscribe and I understand and I see it and I also go, and I can't help myself because that's it's good marketing. It's good commercials. Even though this had no marketing and no commercials within it, it's fucking
nothing.
It's an indie movie as far as indie movies are concerned.
Yep.
But you can't help but sit and go, I'd go trucking about Australia.
Oh, yeah.
I would fucking ride a motorcycle across Australia and I'd be like, oh, this is where Mad Max was filmed. Oh, cool. And then be fucking out of there. Would I go out of my way for that? Probably. But, like, that's just the sucker I am. It's a beautiful country and everything. They have giant spiders and it's always on fire.
Okay.
But
so I've got to ask.
Give it to me, Adam. Because we're not even through plops, and special effects.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is, if you liked this movie so much.
Right.
Which I suspect not as much as you're letting on.
No.
What was your favorite props special effect?
The Interceptor's real fucking cool.
They're cool.
Um,
I really wanted that intro to be more like the Batman. I don't know if you've seen the new.
I have not seen the new Batman.
Oh, the intro to that car. Honestly, it's orgasmic.
Yeah, it's that good, eh?
I kind of wanted that, and they didn't quite give it to me. It was cool. It was not bad, but it wasn't that good.
So it's funny because I think what we got with Fury Road is why we got the way we got it in Batman.
Oh yeah.
You know, no, but like the puddle hops.
Oh yeah,
of,
for
like,
sure.
That kind of shit. Yeah. Best special effect.
Yeah.
I would have to say, and this is where I'm going to end too on my like final ratings and reviews. I can't answer that.
No?
I can't answer the special effect because it collides too much into final ratings and reviews.
Oh, interesting.
But the cars are fantastic. I liked how beat up the Hall of Justice was.
Yeah.
I will segment with you before we get into Does It Hold Up or even the plot itself, because we'll get through the plot real quick. We'll do it real speedy, don't worry. You're right. Fuck, you're right on the world building. He builds a good world.
Yeah.
The problem is it is just like, how cheaply and how desolate can we make this? Just driving around on a Monday morning in Australia when no one is up and no work has started.
Yep. But
we're yelling and screaming in the streets.
Everyone's
as cheaply as possible.
Everyone's working. No one's on the road. This is our moment.
This is our moment. This is our only moment kind of thing. But yeah.
I think I'll jump because you obviously can't answer it right now.
I can't.
You're holding on.
I'm holding on to it. I'm holding on to it
Yeah.
because you're going to go, yep, yep.
Mine's definitely the Knight Rider rocket car.
The Knight Rider rocket car?
It's got to be. I can't. You can't go wrong with that one.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's an easy answer. Like
it is.
Normally we have this big rigmarole why it's cool, but in this indie film they fucking strapped a rocket to a car. I don't know how else to describe this.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you watch the car driving, when it goes through the rocket, you can see the rocket, like the jet,
just holding
the fire,
on. Holding on,
shooting out the back, and it looked really cool. They didn't show that before, so it looked kind of weird, but the fact that they got this car to like skid around this truck with a rocket in its back, I'm not even sure they controlled it. I almost feel like they just turned on a rocket and said, whatever happens, happens.
Pray.
Pray. Get out of the way and pray.
Pray.
Yeah. Because I couldn't tell if there's any guide wires or anything like that. And if they did control it, I don't know how they did it. And that's good for them for the small budget they had.
So, apparently the motorcycle gang wasn't actually actors, and they had written like a bunch of we're gonna get you and harassment, and they just bullied Mel Gibson on set the entire time.
Did they?
Yeah, they apparently had written we're gonna get you in blood, in animal blood on his trailer, or like where he was staying on the wall.
So they accidentally.
And they would constantly like deflate his tires and shit. Like they would just the motorcycle gang. They would say later on in interviews that they would get like really really in character, even though there was no characters. They're not actors. They would get really really in character and sort of just get like too deep, and that's where you get like him lighting his like Johnny Boy lighting his arm on fire. There's just weird shit that they did that they were like, yeah, I think I'm like each person not being a trained actor or anything like that, just kind of going off the deep end within the madness of it. And Miller just being like, don't shut the fucking camera off. Just let him fucking have it. Whatever he's going to do is going to be weird. And whatever, we have one take, so let him fucking go.
Let him go.
And they would just bully Mel Gibson to a point where Mel Gibson had to be like, hey, I'm not okay with this anymore. And like, this is a lot. And they wouldn't stop. Miller was like, no, keep him. Keep him in that headspace. Fuck him.
So
he wants to be a star? Fucking rattle him.
They accidentally created that environment. So they had to get all the motorcycles and all the bike gangs down to where they were filming. So what happened is, I understand, I'm pretty sure this is true. Hugh Keys, he rode with the gang because he had to bring his motorcycle all the way, like at some point he met up with them and went on a road trip with them because they had to all get to the filming
It was
spot.
cheaper to drive the motorcycles with the gas than it would be to put the motorcycles on a truck to ship them.
Yeah, so
which
they
is
rode.
bonkers.
It's crazy. So they rode all the way. It's motorcycles. That makes sense. So they rode. Yeah, they're small engines.
Don't act like I know. Don't act like I fucking know. I don't know.
But they rode down, but I guess Hugh joined them.
Yeah.
So they kind of created like all the actors and the bikers came together, and they kind of created a gang. By the time they got there, they had been doing a road. They've been traveling on the road.
Well, I mean, you're fucking fisting ciggies and you're slamming fucking tinnies. Of course. Like that is that weird sort of, it's not beer and sandwiches as much as it's like you have moments with actors when you have wiggle room and post-production time and pre-production where they're like, go bowl.
Yeah.
What? No, the movie, there's no bowling scene in the movie. No. Just go bowling.
Just
like go
hang
hang
out.
out. What?
Yeah.
You guys need to fucking go hang out. That way on screen,
Yes.
it's real.
If we ever watch,
like there's moments, like that's some of my favorite fucking behind the scenes stuff where they're like Scott Pilgrim.
did you ever see? Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you because there's one that's like matches what you're describing.
Go for it.
Did you the Fast and Furious movie?
The Fastest and Furious.
The Fastest of the Furious.
Beautiful.
Which
is good.
Which is
It's
fine.
Fine.
If we ever watch it again, I'll be raised by spoilers. It's old enough. We might actually.
I actually watched it the last. You know what? I watched the first one in Montreal a month ago.
Oh God.
Yeah, we put it on. We had a fucking.
You were that bored, eh?
No. Listen. Whatever. Continue.
So the scene where they were partying at night before the race started. It was nighttime. All the tuners were there, and they were just having all the Hispanic gangs, the Hispanic gangs,
criminals.
hanging out.
You're trying to say criminals.
No.
You want to say all Hispanics are criminals.
No, oh my God.
All right.
Anyway, so they're there. I guess what they did was they basically just brought all the beer there, had all the cars there, had all the actors and all the hot women and everything. Yeah. They're like, okay, just listen. We need some time to set up filming. It's going to take us a few hours. Here's some beer. Go hang out.
Right.
And they just started partying. Nighttime came by.
Whatever you do, don't tell Vin Diesel that he's bald.
Yeah.
Just assume he's got a full head of hair.
So they were partying. They were just like, okay, well, we'll wait till, someone calls us over for video. Like, hey, action, whatever. And so they just kept doing it, partying, drinking, getting drunk. And then nighttime came and someone just goes, all right, that's it. We're done. Wrap it up. And then they're like, but we didn't film anything. Right. And they're like, oh no, we were filming the whole thing.
No shit, eh?
And they just let them party the whole night.
B-roll, eh?
Yeah.
Good for them.
So that kind of reminds me of what you're talking about. It's like, to me, one of the bigger versions of that story.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's that. That's a good time. It was 4 a.m. when we watched Fast and Furious in Montreal, by the way. Okay. God. It was one of those. It was like us after the Dirty Show for Hook.
Yeah.
We were like, what are we doing? And I'm like, I guess we're watching fucking Fast and Furious.
Oh, I guess so.
Second night, you know what else we watched? True Lies.
Oh, God.
Jamie Lee Curtis, fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. And let me tell you.
Oh, my God.
Holy shit, what a fucking amazing movie. Still holds up.
Never seen it.
You've never seen True Lies?
No.
Oh my
I know
God.
of it, but I've never seen it.
Oh my God. Jamie Lee Curtis. Fucking hello.
Scream Queen.
Just making me fucking scream. All right. So back to Mad Max. After our brief moment from our sponsors, we would appreciate if you would give us a thumbs up and a like. It would help us promote the show. It would help us get to more people. We definitely need your support. We definitely don't have a show without you. So we'd like to thank you very much for listening and sticking with us. Midnight with the Devil was fine. The last 20 to 30 minutes were okay. It was definitely one of those movies that needed an extra 10 minutes. But we definitely appreciate retro horror. Back to Mad Max.
So,
Adam, the Road Warrior himself, gets crippled in this movie.
Yeah, pretty brutally.
It's brutal. It's brutal. But how exactly did he get crippled in this movie? And let's do the classic. Probably wonder how we got here. Max, the world has gone to shit, and George Miller has not told any of us this, nor do we know it's a post-apocalyptic movie. Australia, crime-ridden, filled, criminals everywhere. Adam would call them Hispanics. But what I will say is, none in Australia, sir. So, your geological region is completely off by a few thousand miles. Ultimately, gas is scarce. Freedom is wide.
Yes.
Bullets, not so much. There's a lot of guns in this movie, but there's not a lot of shooting.
No, there's only like maybe
3, 4?
No one.
The baby has a gun?
Yeah.
At one point, I looked at you and you're like, what? I'm like, the baby fucking just put the gun in his mouth. We're not talking about that?
It is weird that the only people who never had guns were the villains.
You know why? Because their weapons were their motorcycles.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. The plot of the movie, pretty much, Mac's family dies, and he goes on a mission for revenge after having enough shit. There's some hot takes and some very, very gay lines.
But it didn't
And
even
I don't
seem...
mean that in like a derogatory term. I mean like they all fucking on the police force. Not like RoboCop. I mean like they all banging.
I think there's something wrong there where I don't think, like, most of this was not... It was only revenge at the last 15 minutes. Seriously. The first one was the Knight Rider.
Okay.
And they killed the Knight Rider.
Okay.
Right?
They killed the the police force strikes first against the Knight Rider.
Yes.
Who steals a vehicle and goes on a rampage across the highway, wrecking a lot of property, but not actually killing anyone.
Correct. Just being wild.
And we assume he's on drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Though nothing is hinted.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly wish he was just on a fucking puffer, like he has asthma. And that was the thing.
Yeah.
What is it? It's
Someone
mysterious.
has old expired drugs.
He's
that
doing
make you go
gold
off.
leaf.
He's doing Goldschlager.
Gold leaf is flakes and Schlager.
But so yeah, they take out him, and then that's when Toe Cutter's gang comes to the town
Because the Knight Rider was important. He was technically the chosen one for something.
Yes. It sounds like he was below Toe Cutter, but maybe Toe Cutter's right hand man. Maybe. Because he seemed to be very important to Toe Cutter.
Yeah.
And
Or his lover.
yep. So they take revenge on who they believe did it, when in reality it was Max, but they start picking on Goose.
Yeah.
Because
All of the police force, realistically.
all the police force, yeah.
They put pressure on everybody.
Yes, but Goose sort of is angry and beat up. The gang comes, they attack innocent civilians. This is that rape scene we were talking about.
Well, there's the rape scene, and then they also attack the community surrounding the police
Yes.
stations, saying, and it's not less. What's very, very interesting, and this is once again, let me go on a tirade to find the shot glass.
We have a lot of
The
tirades
ocean-
on this one.
The ocean within the shot glass. I'm having a fun episode. It's nice to do this with you. The best way to make the police force, or lack thereof, Hall of Justice force, which is very reminiscent of a Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
There is a lot of 20 AD
Yeah.
or 2001, right? 2001 AD, you can see the British comic influence on this. You can see the Judge Dredd, even with the brass badge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this has its punk rock underground comic vibes. And that's where I'm seeing, like, that's where I'm kind of going, like, when did Tank Girl come out? When did fucking Judge Dredd, like, when did it all sort of hit the fan? The absolute optimal way to make the police look weak isn't to attack the police. It's to attack the communities,
Yes.
because they can't protect you. And we're going to just drive in a big fucking circle and just keep hitting communities. And they keep doing that
Yes.
within that.
But I don't feel like they were doing it for a reason. I just felt like they were insane.
They were insane. But like, if they were trying to get Goose, if they were going duck, duck.
Ha. Oh, did I ruin it?
You fucked it up.
Sorry. Duck, duck, goose.
Thank you very much. If they were going duck, duck, goose, it was initially by attacking the smaller communities, because you get that when Goose finally gets fucked up.
Well, they only chose to go after Goose because that one guy that they captured after Johnny Boy after the rape scene was Goose. Kind of was like, how could you fucking let this guy go?
Our political system's a joke.
System's broke.
Our lawyers are a joke.
Yeah.
Our government's a joke.
Kill him, just take him out. And so he kind
do that,
of pissed off Johnny Boy. So Johnny Boy got out and made it back to the gang. Was like, we're gonna go after that guy.
I know all the police's faces.
Yes.
And I know all their first names.
Yeah. So that's why that's why that happened. That's why they went after Goose. And then once Goose was out of the picture, I think that's Max, who is not Mad Max at this point. He's Scared Max.
Maximus.
He's Scared Max.
Yeah.
He was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go. I'm going to quit the Force. So he quits the Force.
Oh, he tries.
He tries. Technically, he quit. He never came back.
Right.
Technically.
You can't come back from what he's seen.
But
it's so overly dramatic.
Oh,
I fucking love how overly dramatic it is.
But what I found weird was I thought Toe Cutters would find out that, oh, no, it was actually Max that killed Knight Rider. But it was pure coincidence at that point. In theory, Toe Cutter was done with them.
Yeah.
Toe Cutter was
it was all coincidence.
It was all coincidence.
Mad Max even being like, what's his name? Toe Cutter?
Yeah.
And they're like, we fucking deal with one of these guys once a week.
Yeah. Like, who's this guy? Knight
Pineapple
Rider?
Man!
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I am the great Dots Man.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. He's like, oh, it's just, he made the news again. So what? No one cares.
Right.
And it was just coincidence. Toe Cutter was, hey, they killed the guy who killed who they thought killed Knight Rider.
Right.
And they're just partying at a beach now, honoring Knight Rider. And that's when Mrs. Mad Max shows up for some ice cream and she kicks him in the balls and they get pissed off at her. They not once went after Max's family specifically for Max. It was pure coincidence. He was just a bystander in all of this.
So
I'm saying Mad Max because I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Rostansky. They just call him Max.
So, yeah, Rockstansky.
Yeah.
This guy.
It's just weird.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So the police force themselves immediately go in and they say, the captain of the police force is like, hey, listen, they need heroes. They need someone to believe in out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's all chaos. It's a train wreck. Everything has gone to shit. And the government, who has pulled strings to fix up and fully load and deck out the Interceptor, asking, hey, you're pulling favors. You're pulling favors beyond favors here to get parts that we don't already have. And we built you this car. You better not fucking crash it. It's a very, very brief scene with the police chief being like, I still believe in heroes and they need a hero out there.
Yes.
It's madness. And Max immediately, repeatedly saying, I'm out. I'm done. I've lost too much. I can't go out there and go native.
Mm-hmm.
I had recently watched Lawrence of Arabia.
I want to watch that movie on this podcast.
I would love to do Lawrence of Arabia with you.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's 4 hours long.
Holy shit.
I am not fucking with you. It is 4 hours long.
Wow.
I watched it at work. It is not the way to watch it. It is 4 hours long. It is, I swear to God, it is like watching 2 Lord of the Rings back to back. And there's an intermission. Thank Christ. But it is insanely good. It is not, it's much like this. It is not groundbreaking. Mm-hmm. Or, sorry, let me rephrase.
It was at the time.
Let me rephrase. I apologize. I misspoke on that. It is groundbreaking, but it is not like the best thing you've ever seen in your life.
Sure.
It's better than Dune. Especially with like some of the desert shots that they get with these like helicopters.
New or old Dune?
Both.
Okay.
Just for what they are able to do. But to spoil Lawrence of Arabia for you for a brief minute. Ladies and gentlemen, pause now and skip 15, 20 seconds if you don't want to hear spoilers for Lawrence of Arabia, a movie that came out in the 60s. Lawrence continues to go back to the English military and go, pull me the fuck out. I'm in too deep. And they go, no, you're our number one man. You're our hero. The newspapers are going to write about you. Get the fuck back out there and deal with the Turkish government and deal with these freedom fighters.
Be the hero.
And he goes, I am starting to enjoy it. Not the revolution, but the murder. You need to pull me out. And they go, nonsense. Have a drink. They smack him on the face a couple times. Pull yourself out of it and have your wits about you. Mad Max, briefly but shortly, does that same fucking scene in 48 seconds, or the 3-minute scene when he goes to quit that Lawrence of Arabia does 4 times. Like, Lawrence shows up to be like, hey, man, I don't know if I'm okay with this. And they go, nonsense, get the fuck back out there.
I mean, I'm glad they only do it once.
Queen and Country.
Yeah, glad they only do it once.
Yes, Lawrence of Arabia, though, you start to see how deep he gets.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, character-wise, for his values, there's a reason why he's pulling out. Now he's actually too deep, or he thinks he's too deep. There's a reason why he's like, I need help. And then being like, no, you haven't even started yet. Then by the 3rd time, you're like, they should have fucking pulled him out.
Yeah.
And they are like, we're doing great.
It's a sunken cost fallacy.
Exactly. Mad Max has those moments, and I think those are the most important moments within this film is what is a hero? What is justice? What is the police force? What is the chaos of the streets and the road and what happens out there? Because when they let Johnny Boy go after the court case and everything falls through, and it's a kangaroo court. Aha, Australia. That's another Outback reference right there. The police chief literally is like, as soon as the paperwork, the ink is dry. Do what you want. Hunt him down. Get him. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But cars better not be destroyed.
Yeah.
You all better come back in one piece, and you better not waste any ammo.
Yes.
Beat him up, run him off the road. I don't give a shit.
Yep.
But
don't leave evidence.
You aren't as valuable as the automobile.
Yeah.
It was the vibe of this movie because of how many scrap parts and everything that they're trying
I got the
still
feeling like they were treating Max as valuable because Max was the only one that could drive the Interceptor that they were building.
I feel like they were just looking for anyone. I feel like they were looking for somebody with clean teeth. I think a family man. I think the pillar of hope.
See, and I took it as because when they couldn't chase Knight Rider, like, Max, we're all out. It's you, man. I think he's the ace in the pocket, and he always has been. But, so they were prepping that car for him.
Right. Well, that's why we have the radio transition.
Yeah.
When they fire it up to be like, I think we got him.
Yeah, we pulled him in.
We pulled him in. He's going to go do wild ass shit because we're losing policemen.
Yes.
More than we're gaining them.
Exactly.
On the streets.
They wanted him to be Mad Max to a small degree.
They did.
Like the police force almost wanted this to happen.
Right.
Almost.
Right.
Maybe not exactly this.
Lock him up. Don't murder him.
Yeah.
But also there's no justice within this film that works.
Correct.
Because they don't have cells. The guy's just in chains.
Yeah, he's just sitting on a chair in the middle of the room.
There is no system for it. It all falls apart, which also reminds me a lot of like Judge Dredd shit.
Yeah.
Where it's like at one point it becomes overwhelming.
Well, Judge Dredd has like we've got prisons, but the prisons are on prisons, and they're filled to the brim.
ISO cubes,
yeah. But I don't know. I think...
I don't know. It's a weird... Yeah, sorry. We're done with Lawrence of Arabia and stuff.
Yeah, no.
It's weird, like, other films and other references of just like, what do you do with this problem? The whole island has gone berserk.
Yeah.
But how do we deal with it? Is it the rest of the world? Is it just us?
Okay.
What's happening?
I want to give our viewers and our listeners a bit of an example of maybe why it was hard for me to follow plot.
Give it to me.
So can you go ahead and, speak to me like I'm Mad Max as the trying to convince me not to leave the Force? Can you do that for me right now?
All right.
Give a little bit of role play here.
Okay.
Go for it. Just go ahead and start now.
Okay. You want me to tell you not to leave the Force?
Yeah. Yep. Convince me not to leave the Force.
Are you ending the show?
No. Just keep talking.
Okay. You're a coward, and they're gonna kill your family.
What?
Motorcycle.
What?
That's the wrong microphone.
You get my point. Like, their mixing was so bad, I couldn't understand.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
half
fair.
of what was said.
That's fair.
Because they just had this music. It was a calm. They're having a calm moment with the captain and Max.
Yeah.
And they're just talking about this. And in the back is
your face when I hit you.
I was not expecting that.
I know. I tried to do a wrestling slap. You're good though, right?
My first thing was like, oh, don't hit the mic.
No, dude, come on now. I can take a bump.
No,
I'm
me.
sure you can take a
No,
bump.
me. I was like, hopefully I don't hit the mic out
you're
of
fine.
shock.
I saw beard hair go. It was wonderful. Yeah,
But you get my point.
The
Like,
mix on that is rough.
I didn't get that. I not once with this entire movie understood that they were trying to get Max to stay with the Interceptor. I didn't realize that.
Or why they needed him.
Or why they needed him.
Yeah.
Even after both the things. But now that you say that, the little bits of dialogue I did get out of, between the music, makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't get that during the movie. I just went, what are they talking about?
Right.
Whatever.
Right. No,
Show me some action scenes.
No, I get that. And I get like the idea of like, I mean, this is the problem with a lot of grindhouse and a lot of like horror movies, or even like, unfortunately, and I'll say it to anyone who likes Fast and the Furious, plot doesn't really fucking matter. You're there for the action, you're there for the explosion, you're there for the girl in the tight dress or the gore, or you're there for some of this thing might show up kind of thing.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't really matter. Like Mad Max, you are there for some Australian butt cheek.
Yep.
The countryside, which is beautiful. And then a very fast car and a couple of bike chain pipe. Like, it was Mr. Body in the library with a lead pipe.
And I don't know what kind of birds they have in Australia, but my God, that bird liked to chirp a lot in that movie.
Oh, that is, I drank coffee with one in Japan. That is,
it almost sounded like cicadas. Like, what we have cicadas where sometimes you'll be sitting in the back of your house if you're in the wrong neighborhood and you'll be trying to have a drink with your friend, and the cicadas, like, they're kind of like grasshoppers that make like noises to try and mate, and they can literally drown out conversations around here sometimes. Some seasons. It's brutal. It kind of reminded me of that, where they just sit there looking over a road and there's just a you're like, well, Jesus Christ, bird, like, relax. Trying to do an opera over here. It's ridiculous. But I think that was a huge part of the problem. Ooh, you're really looking deep here. You gonna do some Googling for us? What kind of bird is it?
it's a kookaburra. That was a kookaburra.
Kookaburra?
A kookaburra.
Oh.
Yeah, what you were hearing was a kookaburra.
My God, that bird was just so
Yeah,
loud.
what you were hearing was a kookaburra.
It was just so loud.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a kookaburra. And I only know that because I have photos of me drinking a cup of coffee and sharing a cup of coffee with a kookaburra. And it was very loud, but it was down to chill.
That's funny.
No, that's what they sound like. They're just like wild. And you're like, fucking. Yeah,
you're like, oh my God.
Very funny. It was very good. All right, so.
What an unhinged episode.
What a fucking great episode.
We're unhinged like the end of the world.
That's about it.
So does it hold up? That's our next thing. That's
No,
what we
because
talk about next.
to end the plane and to finish the plots on the plots on
Right.
plots, I want to say, like, so pretty much in a nutshell, if you are going to do the George Miller in review, if you're gonna watch Road Warrior, I would recommend going back and watching Mad Max. Okay. There is some very interesting shots. There is some fun shots. There is some very ridiculous stunt performances and some very, like, skin of your teeth moments.
Oh, yeah.
They are enjoyable. I think the idea and seeing this sort of origin story of Mad Max is interesting. I think with the recent news of George Miller doing Mad Max Wasteland, which is apparently going to be the origin story of Mad Max, even though we just fucking watched the origin story of Mad Max, is a little confusing to me. Unless it's a prequel or like a sequel kind of thing, you wouldn't want to go any further back. I feel like the world, and this is the interesting thing with Mad Max, especially, and this is like quotes from George Miller, is it's not about Mad Max or Max himself.
Yep.
You are existing in the world of Mad Max, and these are just, he is a character or a background character in it.
Yes.
Apparently he shows up in Furiosa at some point.
Or he's clever enough to not just connect himself to a specific actor.
Right. Right.
Screw himself like Indiana Jones has.
Right. But what an interesting concept of here is like, it's Indiana Jones and it's just, here's the wild thing. And these archaeologists keep showing up and shit goes wrong. Watching Max go through the carnage and get revenge is very, very interesting. The laid backness of the 70s is the pushback on this movie because of the seriousness of these people either aren't actors or these are the people that they could get with this movie. And the idea of just sort of, well, yeah, the kids are going to come back when the street lights come on.
Yeah,
is sort of the attitude of this entire film.
There is where there is the TV had to come on and be like, "Do you know where your kids are?"
Right, to remind parents, be like, "Do you know where your fucking kids are?" Because like a lot of the scenes in this movie are like children just blindly running into traffic,
just parents leaving their children wherever.
Right, and there was no drugs on camera, so it wasn't like mom and dad were stoned and they weren't parenting.
Yeah,
so it's very, very interesting. The ending we're not necessarily spoil because they make 5 more movies, but Max lives.
Well, this is raised by spoilers. We know everything that happens in these movies.
Max pretty much runs at all of the motorcycle gang off the road.
Really quickly.
Incredibly conveniently, without a problem at all, like he should have did that in the beginning.
I don't think he killed a single person in this entire movie.
No, he shot Toe Cutter's right-hand man, the pale guy with the blonde hair.
Pale guy with the blonde hair. No, I don't think that guy ran away. No, that's Johnny that ran away.
Johnny ran away. He shot the blonde guy with the eyeliner. Shot him off the motorcycle with the shotgun. He gets shot in the knee. He drops, and then the entire time he is struggling to get to the sawed-off shotgun to shoot the blonde guy, as soon as he rides at him with the motorcycle.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember that.
Yeah,
that tells you how little I noticed that part.
It's the first.
I remember the Johnny because that was impactful.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, there's a ton of murders. Not a lot of blood, not a lot of gore, but a ton of murders.
Yeah.
And then they leave it up to the idea of tell, don't show. So the gore and the imagination of how horrific. Same thing with Goose being burned alive.
Yeah. That was honestly really cool because they couldn't get a real corpse, so they just like draped him and put really cool lights on him.
Yeah.
And then Max when he unpeeled it to see him, we don't get to see the corpse.
No.
All we see is the light change and the horror on his face. Honestly, that was amazing.
But that's what could happen to him.
Yeah. This
is the road rash, the road burn, all of that kind of thing. We don't have Lord Humongous in this one. That's when we get the hockey mask and the 7-foot tall dude in the. It gets gayer. It gets even more fetish gear.
Sounds like fun.
It does. It does a lot. It's Road Warrior is a lot more fun. It's more fetish gear, but it's a lot of fun.
It is funny that I've seen the two sides of this.
Yeah. So Adam, let's begin our descent. Does it hold up?
I don't think my opinion is.
No, but does it hold up? Does Mad Max hold up? 1979.
The problem with this movie,
Australian dystopian.
So this is the problem with Raised by Spoilers.
All right.
Sometimes, and this is the exact same feeling I had when I watched Alien. Another episode you can go see.
Check out our episode of Raised by Spoilers on Aliens. You can give us a thumbs up and a like. Alien Romulus is coming soon.
There you go. I think had I watched this in the 70s, this would have been very impactful to me. However, going back in time, having seen Fury Road and Thunderdome, I've never seen Road Warrior. I've seen bits of it, but never the whole movie. This movie seems very tame.
Yeah.
And poorly put together. And that has led to a state of, I didn't invest myself in the characters.
Okay.
I didn't really understand the story. There was one, just didn't really understand it because I could barely understand it. And
we watched the Australian version, not the American dub.
Yes.
So that's on us.
And then not only that, the pacing kind of rode me through the movie very weirdly.
Yeah.
And I think that led to a sense of, when is this over? And I think that has led to a feeling of, no, this movie does not hold up.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to feel different about number 2.
Yeah.
But this
So
one,
am I. So am I.
So
Tell
am
you,
I.
optimistically, I've heard they get better.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
I've heard they only get better, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for. But this one, no, it does not hold up. I think it's such a simple fact, and it's not about the film. It's not about the cinematography. It's not about the way it looks on film. It looks great.
Yeah.
It's about getting you from point A to point B. They're like, this is a movie about Mad Max. You only see Mad Max for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck me. Like, this is, you're ruining that's like having the John Wick movies and having the dog die 15 minutes before the end of the movie.
Yeah. No, because it honestly, in a weird sort of sense, does it hold up? No. It feels very much like we get our character, like you said, 30 minutes in. There's a moment in the movie where he's rolling around in the grass in khakis.
Yeah.
And they're talking about going to get ice cream and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're still trying to wrap your head around, like, isn't this a post-apocalyptic movie? Like, what the fuck is going on? The rest, this is one of those ones where it feels odd and isolated, but it feels very much like your main characters are aliens.
Yeah.
Where nothing that we are being told within the movie is actually happening to our main characters.
Yeah.
Like they have just arrived on the planet Earth and everything is about to happen to them, but not yet. Only when it's convenient for the plot.
Sure. Yep.
So if it's a post-apocalyptic movie, well, our main characters are out for breakfast. So why would that affect them in any way?
Yep.
Because we're going to have this dialogue of our main characters being out for breakfast, which is bizarre.
Why?
Bizarro, right? Like there's no water rations, there's no food scraps, there's no tin can shortages. It's just very sort of convenient and moving our characters from one plot or from one stunt piece to the next with acts of violence in the middle.
Yeah.
And moments of forced suspense.
Yes.
Like when Toe Cutter starts licking the ice cream and stuff. Like they're trying to build tension.
And they don't even have good music that does that. It's like the music is always intense the whole time.
And if that's the case, don't have any fucking music.
Correct.
But that's also coming off of like Hitchcock. That's also coming off of After Effects and I don't mean After Effects the program. I mean like After Effects like you said, looking at it how cinema is done now versus how cinema was done back then versus how cinema was done 10 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where, like I said earlier, Lawrence of Arabia, 4 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
This is 90 minutes. Like you are fucking in and you are fucking out with this movie.
Even then, I feel like this movie could have been out faster.
True. We could have cut out the vacation.
Yeah.
We could have cut out the dog and the beach scene.
But there's also
they
a lot
want to
of...
get their actors in bikinis. They want to like
Sure, but there's a lot of extra
sort of
scenes.
tongue-in-cheek shit that they wanted.
They did not need the old lady and her kid.
Yeah. No.
They don't need that. They really didn't need the scene where, oh, we have a flat tire. You go along and have ice cream. Mad Max could have just been like, yeah, I'm going to walk away for a bit.
Right.
Like, they didn't need to have all this extra. I felt like they spent a lot of money on a lot of stuff that wasn't needed.
I think it's not knowing, like, and this is the shitty thing. And this is where you have to kind of bridge the gap. And this is where I also feel like where you were with Alien versus Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is where I am defending you now. Oh my God, I've become the villain.
Wow.
Knowing where we're going.
Yeah.
Versus knowing where we are. Versus knowing in Mad Max 2, I'm pretty sure there are no trees.
Cool.
Like there are the green places. Like the concept was to do one every 5 years or so.
Okay.
Mel Gibson got too old. He was supposed to be in Fury Road before Tom Hardy was in it, and then all of the stuff happened, and then and then he politely said, "I'm too old for those movies." Not, "I don't want a paycheck." He kind of went, "We're not going to work with you."
Yeah.
And they ushered him out of the franchise.
What stuff? What are you talking about? Mel Gibson is a saint.
He's never done a damn thing wrong. He's never done a damn thing wrong in my eyes. But there's a crux of you can't control your actors.
Yeah.
Writing, technology, film, whatever.
Again,
the
Indiana Jones and Shia LaBeouf.
Right.
Man's never done a thing wrong in his
Human
life.
cannibal, Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf.
And totally normal
Hollywood
human.
superstar.
Totally
Shia
normal
LaBeouf.
human.
Go listen to that song. It's phenomenal. I think the tricky thing is the vision, and I know where we're headed, versus did Miller know that? Or was this his second take? And
Sure.
in interviews, is he going to be saying, oh, yeah, it was all planned out the entire time? Or is that bullshit?
Oh, it's bullshit.
Right? That's
I don't
the
think he'd ever
weird
say.
hang up.
I don't think he'd ever say because I think everyone knows.
Right.
Public.
Right. And that's my weird, like, I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, it's easy to sit back and go, oh, yeah, we had it all planned out from, like, 1, 2, and 3. But they clearly didn't.
No.
Yeah, I don't feel like it holds up at all.
So we agree on that.
We agree on that. And I feel like the crux that is getting in my way is knowing Road Warrior exists. And knowing I think they had triple the budget.
It's like the better remaster.
Right. Road Warrior, and like this is where I keep going back to like Evil Dead 2, I want to say it's the same fucking movie, just with triple the budget.
Yes.
And they went, okay, what do we cut? What do we leave?
Yeah.
And what do we make tighter?
Which I almost don't mind that if people, I mean, I guess that's what you do in the editing and stuff like that nowadays, but there is almost like
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. Yeah. There is a level of like, I'm okay with movies coming out and then us going, that was good. You did on a good budget. Now we like almost like, you know, people put out like pilots for movies.
Right.
Quick little demo reels. To me, they're just really big demo reels.
Yeah. And this felt like almost, it feels shitty because it's so Star Wars-y. But also Star Wars came out 2 years earlier. But like a text scroll, a voiceover.
Yeah.
This is what happened. And you're watching the sunset over Australia. And it's just the desert or the outback. And you're seeing how hot it is. And you're seeing just that like horizon line.
You see the waves off the road.
And Mel Gibson's talking about how everything went to shit.
Yeah.
And how there's only so many police officers left.
Yes.
Like, this is all exposition you would have read on the poster.
Yes.
Or that they would have given you as a title card.
Yep.
When you were walking into the cinema to read.
Yeah.
And then the movie begins and you're like, okay, there's only so many cops left and Australia's gone to shit. And we're going to see 3 commercials to say, fly to Australia to vacation. And they don't have giant spiders. But
all I can imagine is that commercial going, we don't have giant spiders.
that's a myth.
We need to cut. Cut now. The giant spider's gone out.
Oh, God. Right? Flamethrowers and everything.
You think the thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
You think the thing was science fiction? Nah, mate. That was just here. It was filmed in Australia.
This is almost an arguably too much beer and sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for the 90 minutes, 60 of those minutes are setting up this character that then becomes the villain at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
As he just kind of butchers people on the road. And then we don't go any further, not knowing we're going to get a sequel a few years later.
Yes. Correct. Absolutely.
Right? And that's the crux of Mad Max is he finally gets pushed to his limit. His family is killed. His loved ones are killed. His partner is killed. Everything's gone to shit. And the police force has fallen apart. And now he becomes the villain.
Yes.
He takes his big car and they're all worried about gas because there's a gas shortage, but they're going to rev their engines and drive as fast as they can and do burnouts and just kind of bleed through as much petrol as they fucking possibly can.
To me, that to a small degree, there's a level of like showing off. Like, look, we can do this because we're so badass and so
Right.
rich.
It's like firing ammunition into the air.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. And knowing that there's a never-ending state of anarchy. And I think that's the difference of the chaos versus anarchy versus unruly order within society and situation of themselves setting up that infrastructure within the story for sure thing. Let's get to eyebrows.
Okay.
Adam. Let's bridge those brows. But first, let me tell you about what my favorite fucking thing in this movie was.
Please do.
Because it also has to do with eyebrows.
Ah.
Oh my God. Every scene in this movie, when before someone gets horribly murdered, we do the quick mirror shot to their eyes. and their eyes are about to fucking pop out of their head. And that's a very George Miller thing. Just like the
Total
Sam
Recall style eye pop.
Yes, just like the Sam Raimi thing with the camera on the board running through the woods. The George Miller hypercut of the eyes through the mirror with the light.
Yeah.
And their eyes are about to shoot out of their head before they crash into a car is my favorite. Like, what a director's signature. Like, what a signature. Like, a Raimi movie because of that board wobble.
Yeah.
You know a Miller movie because you're going to get those eyeballs shooting out of their fucking head.
It's
those
funny.
Grapes across the room. I
almost
fucking love
missed
that.
I think it was Knight Rider that first did it at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was such a short cut. I had to, my brain had to be like, wait, what did I just see?
Exactly. Because they keep doing it. Fury Road has it. Fucking all of them do it.
What?
Yeah.
Where in Fury Road does it do it?
Right before Morton Joe dies, they cut to his fucking eyes, and then he goes
But
flying.
he's not like eye popping. I think they just cut to a close up of his eyes.
In his eye, yeah. They go to do the eye pop.
Interesting.
It's all that's the signature throughout all of these films.
I'll have to double check that.
Yeah,
I like that.
All of the signature through those films is that close-up shot on the eyes before they fucking explode kind of thing. It might not be exact, but you get what they're trying to accomplish within it. That is probably my favorite thing for eyebrows.
That makes sense.
That is probably my favorite thing for, like, what is my favorite special effect plop or whatever. I feel like the second thing would probably be, and this is me coming off a high on a low here because I know the eyebrow scene wasn't for everybody, but can we talk about Jess, Mad Max's wife, fucking serenading him with a alto saxophone? God damn!
That was hot.
She is just sitting there hooting and tooting on this fucking alto saxophone. And I used to play alto saxophone, so I can be like, God damn. A good old woodwind instrument. I appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
Loving that shit. I cannot, where are they getting reeds? Where are they getting reeds in this fucking post-apocalyptic future? But I appreciate that. It sounded weird. It was off-putting. They almost had sex with Halloween masks on. But I don't know. Yeah, that's eyebrows for me. The fucking saxophone scene, which made no sense, but hell yeah. We didn't even talk about the bar, the cantina bar.
No, the weird
I love how 70s that was.
kind of bar.
I love how 70s that was, man. This ballroom singer coked out of her mind, just rapping on everybody. She's up there on this little microphone. It is like ballpoint pen thin. She is wailing in about how she wants to sleep with the guy in the leather jacket, and Duck's like, or Goose is like, me?
Duck.
Me? I'm the only guy in the leather jacket tonight, I guess, right? And it's so awkward and such a weird music number, but a Mad Max movie has a fucking music number. Two music numbers in it. We have the saxophone and this chick singing. And I love how weirdly 70s that is.
There were moments in that movie, especially with the saxophone and stuff, that kind of reminded me of the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the darker one.
The one Henson did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he did the first two, but the darker one.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Kind of when they were sad after, I think, I don't know if it was Leo or Raph died or someone. No, it was after they lost Splinter.
Spoilers for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. We're raised by spoilers. What we do here. But yeah, it kind of had moments of that where there's just sax playing in the background and everyone's just,
Raph's in the tub depressed.
Yeah,
and you're like, I don't know how to feel about this. And they're like, well, this is what happens when your parents die. You sit in the tub and you have a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any water in that tub? No, but you are there with your thoughts.
And the foam is getting real heavy.
The tub is full. Full of you and your thoughts.
But I think sometimes what we talk about with special effects and eyebrows and all that fun jazz, obviously I've got to give special props to Toe Cutter.
Toe Cutter is fun.
For his one eyebrow.
His one eyebrow and his shock of peroxide blonde hair.
Yeah. But if we're talking, special effects, eyebrows, that kind of stuff, I have to give props to. Sometimes it's the simple things. It's the little things that tell you a story. You don't need to know the whole story. It's just one color splashed on a man's bum, and you know everything that happened.
Jesus. Okay, you're going for that, eh?
Yeah, I think it was very impactful because I just went, is this supposed to be blood? That's blood on his asshole. And you're like, oh my God. The tale of this man. And it's not good. And then they show off. I do like the "you're a turkey" or whatever that slang is for Aussies. But then they show the car, and the car is annihilated way more than we ever saw.
Chewed
before.
up.
It's chewed up. So I think those two in combination tell such an amazing tale without actually showing the violence.
Yeah.
And to me, it's that little bit of detail. Someone sat there went on his butt with a spray can, and it just it changed that whole scene.
Well, yeah. It's horrifying.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the girl had it worse, but I think that's something that no one else would notice.
So, besides the rape scene, did you like anything else in this movie?
It was so impactful. It was so impactful.
I know.
The rest of the movie
no.
had like
well, it's just nobody is safe.
Nobody's safe.
Nobody
yes.
is safe, right? And I think the second one is where we get the cannibals, where it's like, no, they're butchering kids. Like meat is meat.
Oh,
like that's the the next level of okay. Well, we can't keep doing that. Like let's.
That's fair. No, I just think it was such an impactful scene where I went, oh my god, that to me was
they're going for anybody.
Yeah, where the gangs showed that they were dangerous.
Right.
That was the only real scene. But no, I think I like it as I have to give the props because this is a small. It's not something big. It's not something flashy.
Yeah.
It's something someone just put a little spray can there. And suddenly it changes it from bad to holy shit. Yeah. Kind of there's a level of comedy in that for the guy. But
I mean, that's not a level of comedy, but okay.
It's Mel Gibson style of comedy.
Okay.
Mel Gibson, his famous line.
Hasn't done anything wrong.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, but he's got the famous line of tragedy is when I stub my toe. Comedy is when you fall down a manhole and die. That's one of his lines where it's funny if it happens to other people.
That is...
It's weird, but that's true about humans. But it's one of those things where it's this little bit of detail that told a much bigger story. It didn't need much, but it told a much bigger story because of it.
That's fair.
And I think that's why I give it.
It stuck with you.
It stuck with
that stuck with you.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, folks, it's been fun. It's been an episode. I want to end before we give our final thoughts and ratings and review. And we do all of the rigmarole. James Wan and Liam Whelanelli? I don't know his last name. They are the writer and director of the Saw franchise.
Yes.
They are both Australian.
Okay.
They have openly said multiple times in many, many interviews, the last 5 minutes of the movie is where Saw came from. So the last 5 minutes of Saw, Mad Max handcuffs Johnny Boy's ankle to a truck that is leaking gas and is on fire.
Yeah.
And he hands him a hacksaw and says, those are whatever steel handcuffs. It's going to take you 10 minutes to cut through them, or it'll take you 5 minutes to cut through your leg. And you've probably got 3. And he hobbles away. And they have openly said that was where they got the idea for Saw.
That makes sense.
All of Saw they were just like, we watched the fuck out of Mad Max. We watched it all the time. It wasn't on TV because of how brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. I'm using air quotations, everybody, for the audio listeners. Brutal. It was at the time. But they definitely had it on VHS on repeat. And they're like, what a scene. How impactful. How crazy. He doesn't kill him. He just goes, you've caused me a lot of pain and agony. Here you go.
Well, because technically Johnny was the one who lit up Goose.
Yes.
Technically. It was really Toe Cutter. But I think they should have saved that scene for Toe Cutter. But you're right. That was...
Would Toe Cutter have to cut his toe?
No, it would have been too easy. God. No, but I really like the mirroring of what was done to Goose.
Right.
Which is weird because it's more like he got revenge for Goose than his own wife. Because the mirroring was in the Goose scene, not of his wife's scene where he ran him down.
I mean, he ran Toe Cutter down with the truck.
Yeah, I guess that's
true.
The truck
kind of just completely stomped him.
Yeah, I guess they just have that backwards order, right? Because they kind of went for the henchman as the final death.
Right.
Which is a little weird. But it was a really wicked, badass where you saw
when you
Mad
hang
Max.
In that's the thing. I think like if they there was no music, I don't recall, and it kind of felt slower, and that might be because he's hobbling because his knee's bad.
Yeah.
And it just the whole situation was kind of like him screaming at me like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm mentally ill. I'm psychotic. It wasn't me. I wasn't doing it. I wasn't even there. These people didn't die. I found them like this. Like, it's just this, there is no accountability because of how lawless they choose to be. But as soon as the accountability comes in, and that's Max now, because he does the classic, I am the law.
Yep.
Judge Dredd, shout out to you, Carl Urban.
Really?
You don't like Stallone?
Gonna do Stallone.
Yeah, I'm
dirty.
gonna fucking do fucking Demolition Man as dirty as I can. You get these weird sort of hobbly moments that it's just more brutal.
Oh yeah,
it's brutal. Yeah,
I think it was a great scene.
Oh, it's great fucking scene. The other thing was James Cameron has openly said that the first Terminator movie was heavily inspired by Mad Max, especially when the T-1000 or 8000 is shot in the leg and is limping towards Kyle Reese in the end. It is very reminiscent of like the Mad Max scene where his leg is fucked up, but this killing machine is still moving down the highway kind of thing. Especially with just in the same shot of like the leather pants, the leather jacket, and the whole sort of outfit.
Yep.
For it. But that was some fun trivia. Adam, thanks for a good episode. What a weird, wacky episode we did with Mad Max. But I had a great time.
Yeah.
We both wore jackets. It was great. Adam.
Luckily, we live in a world where LED studio lights exist and not old halogens heating us up like a fucking
Thank God,
bake.
We would have been dying.
Like an easy bake.
We've been dying right now. Adam, did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? Where do we land on Mad Max? The question realistically is, because we start the episode with,
we don't like it.
Is it a fun movie? And we end the episode with, is it a good movie?
That's true. I don't think it's a good movie.
Okay.
And generally I have sort of my rating where it's the question of, would I ever go out of my way to watch it again?
Right.
If the answer to that is yes, I usually give it above a 5.
Okay.
Okay. And that varying levels between 5 is like, how much would I want to go back and see it, right?
Yeah. So if we did like a 1 to 5, sure, or 5 to 10. Let's
so
just
if I'm going from 1 to 5, that's I don't ever want to see this movie again.
Okay.
Obviously in varying degrees.
Right.
This is a 4. I'm going to give this a 4
out of the 5 or out of 10. Okay.
Out of 10. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. I really have no interest in ever watching this movie again.
Okay.
It's so slow.
Yep.
However, I'm willing to watch a few scenes from it again.
Okay.
But that's about it. It's terrible pacing.
Right.
It's terrible mix. And it's that's pretty much the two big ones. I don't think the dialogue is necessarily awful. I think it's between those two, the pacing of the movie, and they could have corrected some things in the plot, and then the bad mix kind of ruined this movie for me.
Brutal. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Should we have watched the American version? Do you think it was their accents?
No.
Because it was the accents for me.
No, it was the mix.
I couldn't understand a fucking thing that any of these people were saying.
No, I could understand them fine.
Mel Gibson's not from Australia. I think he's Canadian.
Is he really?
No, I'm fucking with you.
Oh, I was about to say, what? No, I think he just, I think especially the mix ruined the story, because you found a lot more story in this than I did, but I couldn't understand what they were saying, so I couldn't understand what was going on.
Okay.
And I think that was a huge factor. So, unfortunately, I have to give it a 4 out of 10, and hopefully never watch it again.
Brutal. So, I feel like within the Mad Max saga, it is a must.
Interesting.
I feel like us going into Road Warrior, if we do Road Warrior in a year or a couple months or whatever, I'm curious to see if they did a recap. If it's they show what, like, how Evil Dead 2 shows Evil Dead 1 in the first 3 minutes.
Interesting.
It's like, here's what fucking happened, and now we pick up from our hero where we left off.
Interesting.
And it's like, oh, he's not done in the woods, because Evil Dead 1, he never left the fucking woods.
Correct.
So we keep going with the madness. I don't know how Mad Max 2 starts, but I feel like having context and how we know the trauma and the life he once lived and yearns for.
Mhm.
And knowing where he is, like, we at one point looked at each other and went, knowing they make 3 movies and knowing that this is a big overarching story of like chaos, this, him eating ice cream or swimming and flirting with his wife and the Tarzan, the banana, and like you believe that they're a couple.
Yep.
You fully kind of look and go, this is the last time he's actually going to smile and laugh, unless it's like through gritted teeth and a bloody nose and him murdering somebody.
Yes.
This is not
True, genuine
this is not
happiness.
joy. This is not chaos. This is not madness. This is just happiness. And I feel like this is, you want the Batman story, but we got the Bruce Wayne with his parents still.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, Bruce Wayne's parents die. And you go, oh, fuck, that's awful.
That's an interesting way. Yeah, I agree.
Right? Because we know that there's 5 movies.
Yeah.
That being said, Mel Gibson's acting was fine.
Yeah.
It's his like first big thing. They were all making it up as they went.
For his
Improv.
first movie, it was actually really good. He was really good
Right,
actor.
you believe him. But also, what is he doing? He's bumming around.
Yeah, it's true.
He's being charming.
He's just,
It's like Stallone. He's just be fucking Stallone.
yeah, just be angry.
Right. I feel like the villains didn't necessarily have a motive as much as they were just like, we're going to fuck shit up. But also, that is a lot of the same tropes with early Westerns, with the bandits on horses.
Yep.
We're going to, take over the mine? Do you guys want to mine?
Yeah.
No, you're not going to mine the gold. Do you guys want to govern? You want to like deal with any of the aftermath of the politics of being? You know what I mean?
I love the concept of the bandits. Like, we've taken over the mining town. All right, sir, may you please sign this?
Start digging. Well, I don't want to dig.
It's not even that. It's just like, well, you're going to need to sign these rightful. You're going to have to hold council meetings. You're going to have to like, what do you mean council meetings?
Right. Like that's the Tombstone problem.
Yeah.
That's we're taking over the town. We're taking over all of your farmland. There's 6 of you. You have guns. Do you know anything about dairy farming?
Yeah.
Like, do you know anything about, like, sure.
You didn't think this through, did you?
You didn't. You just thought dollar signs,
Yeah.
right? These motorcycle mayhem maniacs are just driving around fucking shit up, but it's sort of this weird, and I'm getting the analogy for, like, youth and being secluded in a small town and getting your license and driving around and being like hog wild chaos, driving through these farming towns in Australia and them like shaking a fist at you, sort of thing. And that freedom, let alone there was like blood, violence, and rape, which is not necessarily something we atone for in Raised by Spoilers, but also just the idea of like the open road and the freedom that comes with that. So I do get the story. There's 2 stories of like the villains being like, we're wild and we won't be told what to do, but there's no motivation.
Yep.
And if there was like, hey, we're anarchists and there is no laws and we don't apply to you and fuck you. If honestly, if fuck you was the message, I would have believed it more.
Yes.
If fuck you was the message, I would have been like, yep, the cops killed 2 of their people. Fuck you. We're going wild.
Yes.
And there is no war of escalation as much as like they killed Nightwalker or Night Rider. They killed Night Rider, but Night Rider struck first.
Yeah.
And like they weren't trying to kill Night Rider. They were just trying to fucking arrest him. Because he stole a car. And then it's a war of escalation. But there was no through line message of like all of them being marked with ashes of Knight Rider or some sort of like we're in a gang and we have black eye makeup because this is Knight Rider's ashes.
It's
and
2
we're
gangs. One's the legal gangs, one's an illegal gang. Right. So that you could have the cops acting more like a gang, which they kind of did.
Right, 100% in this movie. 100%. Because you can see we'll get away with it. Or, well, as long as no one's looking kind of thing. Yeah. And that's where the chaos and the messaging gets mixed. Because if it was one side attacks another side, all out gang war, and we're dividing Australia, or the highways or these small towns that we're supposed to protect aren't safe, would have made a through line message where it's like the rock in the pond and the ripple of you can only protect so much, and that pond is getting smaller and smaller as the rest of the world starts to close in and crumble. And we didn't get the crumble in this movie.
Yes.
I think the second one, you get the crumble.
Yes.
Right? It's a good cheesecake. You want that crumble.
Yes.
For me, I liked it. I thought the action sequences were great. I thought the Knight Rider was fucking a cool car.
It was cool.
I thought the action sequences could have been more brutal. Like, I want to see Mel Gibson get beat with a fucking chain. I wanted more, like,
brutality.
Blood and gore.
Yeah.
And I liked that Slick Rick, the Italian guy, gets his hand ripped off with the chain. Like, there was moments where you're like, oh, that's gory, but funny.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I would honestly, I will land Mad Max 1, not knowing Road Warrior, not knowing anything going forward, because I hear Tina Turner's, like, Beyond Thunderdome is hit or miss. I would honestly give it a 6. I'd give it a 6 because and the only reason why I give it a 6 is because I know we're going forward, but also I did have fun with it. The mix didn't necessarily bother me.
Okay.
I found I got a little bit more out of it than
Maybe
I was
I'm
expecting.
deaf.
No, you might be deaf. You might be deaf, but we might have to turn it up a little louder. But like, I get the expressionism. I get the youth of this movie. Like I get the idea. Like if this bike gang, like we said with like Corvette Summer, where if this was almost like Max's first car, and I know this isn't the story, and I know this wasn't the movie, but it was like the bike gang pulls Max over, they beat Max up, they rape his girlfriend, and they total his car. And now the bike gang is still out there in Australia, and Max is like, I'm going on a fucking revenge mission.
Yes.
Versus killing his family or whatever, which is a little bit more Hills Have Eyes or a little bit more Last House on the West, or left, I should say. Last House on the Left, the Wes Craven movie. It's not a better story. It's a more violent and gory story. It's a lot more sexually violent.
And more direct.
But it's more direct.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it was Mel Gibson was almost slightly younger, instead of like Mel Gibson looks like he's fucking 25 in this.
Yeah.
He looks like he's 25. He's fresh out of acting school. He's trying to get whatever work he can. I feel like if the story was a little bit more direct and a little bit more like, and he accidentally gets thrown into a world he is not ready for and goes off into the deep end, it would have been a better story. And then we get all of a sudden how unhinged he is in the next couple of movies.
Yes.
Because of that deep end stuff, whether it's sex, drugs, rock and roll, or whatever you'd have.
Yep.
But is it a mandatory? No. Is it a suggested watch? Totally. It's fucking Mad Max. There's a reason why this was like a big deal.
Why it's a famous movie.
This is culturally impactful. The leather jacket, the car, all of it. I think Road Warrior obviously we'll have a lot more fun with. I can't wait to watch it. But yeah, I think it's a 6.
All right. Well,
that's where I'm at.
That's fair enough.
Thank you.
That's kind of where I thought we'd land, to be honest.
So Road Warrior lands a 5. Or not Road Warrior, Mad Max.
Yeah, Mad Max.
If we're both at 4 and a 6,
we're at a 5.
It's a 5. It's fine.
5.
It's
That's
not,
fair.
like I said, not perfect.
Correct, yeah.
Not terrible.
Yes.
But also, in your opinion, not great.
Exactly. I would argue not even good.
And I will be that fucking pylon in the road being like, that was fine.
Will you be the rock that holds this movie up?
No, I'm just saying it was fine. It wasn't spectacular. I can't wait to watch the rest of them.
Yeah,
I'm happy where we're going is what I'm saying.
That's the thing is I'm real happy for the future. I'm real excited for the next.
Right.
Not that it's going to be the next movie we're recording. To be clear.
No.
But when we get there, I am excited to watch those movies.
It's the same argument with Evil Dead. It's the same argument with Aliens. You're you openly being like, I've seen Army of Darkness, and that's a hoot and a holler.
Yeah.
It's not a good movie, but it's a hoot and a holler.
Yes. It's terrible mechanically. Mechanically, it's a terrible movie, but boy, is it fun.
It's a fucking fun movie. And, like, that's the same thing with Evil Dead. That's the same thing with Aliens. Aliens is spectacular, but, like, Aliens 3 clearly is the best one.
Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out.
All right, so anyway. Fucking alien.
Now I've gotta
aliens.
slap you.
Aliens is just G.I. Joe bullshit. Propaganda for the army. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we would appreciate a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe. You could do that now. You can do it later, but we prefer it at the beginning of the video. Let us know what you think. Let us know what movies you want to hear us talk about. We are raised by spoilers. I am Geek Movie House.
Plebeian Adam.
Oh, he's slow for the draw. You can find us everywhere on the internet at RBS Pod. And leave us a 5-star rating, a thumbs up, whatever you want. Or if anything, light a match and with a candle and leave it on your back patio or balcony. We'll know it's you. Good night, everyone. And then as always, be kind and rewind.